Hello! Hello mga kalakin roll! We're live once again. Medyo formal ako ngayon dahil ibang pag-uusapan natin. Karapatan ng mga bata. Okay? Nag-invite kami dito ng dalubhasa tungkol sa usaping ito. And before that, tanggalin ko muna ito. You protect me, I protect you. Sa labas, lagi kayo mag-face mask ka. Anyway, bago ako magsimula, tingnan muna natin again kung tayo ay pag ganito kasi, kailangan siguraduhin kasi yung internet connection may problema. So I have to check whether we are on public. Kung naka-public tayo o hindi. Mukhang hindi nga. Oh. Are we? Sabi na nga ba eh. Hindi na naman, laging hindi. Anyway, so i-public natin para para magtanong kayo sa amin, ano ba itong karapatan ng mga bata na pinag-uusapan? May karapatan ba ang mga bata? Siyempre, lahat ng mga tao meron, lalo na ang mga bata. Kaya namin inimbitahan si Miss Attorney Genevieve Cabradilla ng Children's Legal Bureau o ng CLB. Mag-hello ka naman sa kanila. Ay, hello muna pala. Hindi ako nakapag-hello sa mga nanonood. Hello. Nandito na naman tayo. This is very relevant, no? Lagi naman relevant basta tungkol sa mga bata. Gusto natin pag-usapan ng karapatan ng mga bata o yung tinatawag na children's rights. Marami kasi hindi nakakaalam, attorney. Pero bago yan, pwede ka munang pwede kang bumati muna.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. Maraming salamat po sa Lock and Roll for the invitation to be here. It is really my privilege to impart some knowledge I have about karapatan ng mga bata.
Okay. In-invite natin si attorney ngayon dahil maraming hindi nakakaalam kung ano ba talaga ang karapatan ng mga bata. Pero bago yan, hindi lang po si Ma'am Jenny o si Attorney Jenny ang ating bisita ngayon, kung hindi si Miss Nenita R. Pasilan, isang child's rights advocate and social development worker. Kaya lang may problema yung internet niya. Hindi natin by the way, attorney, mapapanood tayo sa page ko, sa Lampara, sa Precious Pages, and ayun, i-share mo na lang to sa inyong page, diba? At sa Lampara channel. So, yes. Nandun lahat yung nandun sa isa-isa yung mga nanonood sa atin. Okay, ano ba yung karapatan ng mga bata o ano ba yung children's rights, attorney?
When we say children rights, this is one of the basic human rights. And these are the things that our child should have or be able to do. And these rights are embodied basically from our Constitution to our family law and to all other special laws that we have provided for our children.
Okay, ang ganda na sinabi. By the way, ito na naman ako, lagi akong late sa mga sinasabi ko. Pero ito po, ang pinag-uusapan namin ngayon ay may kinalaman sa Children's National Book Month. So mamaya kakausapin natin si attorney, ano ba yung kanyang may suggest o ano ang tingin niya sa panitikang pambata sa ngayon, di ba? Okay. Sabi mo isa kang advocate o isa kang children's legal rights advocate ng ikaw ay nasa Cebu ka pa ngayon, di ba? So
yes po. So long distance relationship po tayo ngayon. So I'm from Cebu and I'm in Cebu. I am a legal advocacy officer of the Children's Legal Bureau. Children's Legal Bureau is a non-government organization. So hindi po kami parte ng gobyerno. But we partner with our government to promote the rights of our children, to protect them from any form of abuse, violence, and exploitation.
Okay. So sa lahat ng gusto magtanong, very relevant ito. So hangga't nandito si attorney, pwede na kayo magtanong tungkol sa karapatan ng mga bata. So nabanggit mo kanina violence, child labor, siguro etc. ganun. Paano niyo pinopolisto at ang habang usapin ito? Sige, pag-usapan natin objective ninyo na may kinalaman sa children's rights. Anong objectives ng CLB?
Our primary thrust po, our advocacy is focused on cases or incidents involving child abuse, child trafficking, and child labor trafficking. So we have funders who are from foreign government organizations or agencies to ensure that walang mga example po Down to Zero and Girls Advocacy Alliance. We ensure that there is zero crime of sexual exploitation, especially commercial sexual exploitation. And now po we have USAID. It's also one of our funders na our project naman is strengthen the Trafficking in Persons Act. So
Anong kaibahan nito dun sa dating Bantay Bata? Sa Bantay Bata, tatawag ka sa phone kung abuse ka, di ba? Ito naman ay...
So actually, Bantay Bata po is another organization, and in kasi of Bantay Bata more on physical abuses, if I may not mistaken. But although they still cater other cases po, pero sa amin po, we as an NGO kasi more on legal assistance po kami. So when there are incidents of sexual abuse or rape or child pornography or trafficking, yung mga ganun po na mga kaso.
Okay, i-flash ko lang si Ma'am, sabi ni Ma'am Nenita pa sila, no? Sorry, may internet connectivity problem ngayon sa location. So, hindi siya Ma'am, kung gusto niya, pwede kayong magsalita, pwede kayong mag-usap, pwede kayong ayusin yung mga questions sa mga nanonood, pwede niyo rin sagutin, babasahin na lang namin. Okay? Naintindihan namin, talagang may mga errors talagang yung internet, wala talaga. So kanina hindi siya makapasok. Attorney, okay, ano ba, ulitin ko ulit para makita ng mga nanonood. By the way, pwede kayong magtanong kay attorney ha. Ano ba yung children's rights? Ano yung karapatan ng mga bata?
So children rights po these are the things that they are able to do and what the law provides them to have. So example po, our basic children rights are the right to survival. So that includes the right to exist, the right to life. We also have the right to development. So when we say the right to development, these are the rights to ensure that our children are provided with all opportunities for them to have to obtain the full potentials. So the right to development includes information, education. And the third right is right to participate. So kahit mga bata po sila, they also have the right to participate, even in political issues, in terms of running the government. They have the right to be heard, the freedom of expression, the right to speech. So, and the last po is the right to protection. So ito na po yung mga rights nila na hindi sila pwedeng abusuhin, the right to be placed in a location or family away from abuse, away from violence, away from exploitation. So those are the four basic rights: right to development, right to survival, right to protection, and right to participation.
Yung pag sinabi mo kasing right for development, sama-sama na yan, 'di ba? Yung survival, lahat. So kaya itong right to be informed o right to be informed, napaka-importante niyan. So pumunta naman tayo, attorney, sa panitikang pambata o sa aklat pambata. Siguro naman familiar ka sa mga children's books ngayon na nakikita mo, di ba?
Yes.
So anong take mo sa mga children's books ngayon? Are they okay? O meron ka pa yung may sasuggest sa mga publishers o sa mga kwentista, sa mga writers, sa illustrators, sa mga picture books, kung meron ka pang pwedeng o baka yung mga ganito, hindi ito natatakil. Mga ganun. What can you say about the books that you have been seeing in the market?
Generally speaking po, I would say that the books that we have in the market are responsive to the needs of our children. Okay. So, sa mga bata po, if we start with grade schoolers, I think yung mga books na binibigay sila are more on example, yung mga basic na kailangan nilang matutunan like stories, yung mga myths, yung yung mga ganong klase ng libro. And when we say yung mga high school books naman, there are novels. And then, I think, and I would say that these books are appropriate to their development. So,
Ano,
sakto.
anong pinaka-topic ang iyong bilang advocate, children's rights advocate, anong pinaka-topic na strongly pag nakikita mo yung mga libro sa atin, dapat ito gawin o dapat ito pa, dapat palawigin pa to, dapat palakihin pa to, dapat i-emphasize pa tong ganitong subject matter. Ano yun? Ano yung nakikita mo?
Ang gusto ko sa mga nakikita kong libro are those na pinag-uusapan kung ano yung mga, kasi sa mga bata, parang merong stigma na hindi, right to sex education. I think even at a young age, our children must know kung ano ba yung mga sex organs natin, ano ba yung mga reproductive organs natin. They need to know what they are called and how they are called. Kasi parang while growing up, yung mga bata, yung mga parents natin, parang dapat hindi sabihin ang word na vagina, hindi sabihin ang word na penis. When in fact,
ganyan. Yun talaga ang term.
In fact, they need to know. Because that's the term. That's how we call it.
Ano ba? Yun talaga yung term.
Yeah. So you can't say that it's a flower, diba? Because they say, you can't say it's a flower because it's a vagina. So that's how it's called. So I really admire those books, which are very informative na talagang, because our children need to know these things. And need to be able to use these terms confidently na hindi sila matatakot na sabihin yun. And it starts from there. Because once they know ano yung mga sex organs na yun and ano yung functions nila, then later malalaman nila na hindi pala pwedeng basta-basta lang na i-touch ito. Hindi pwede na another person. You must be asked. Dapat may consent or permission. Dapat ikaw lang ang pwedeng mag-touch niyan, yung mga ganun.
Sige, bago ko itatanong yung isa ko pang tanong, nabanggit mo yung sex education. Hanggang saan ba? Because alam natin may HIV, diba? So, anong may advice mo sa mga parents na dapat malaman ng mga bata? Kasi they have the right to inform, to be informed, diba? Hindi dapat ma-deprive kung ano talaga nangyayari sa mundo. So, anong take mo?
I would say that our parents should not be afraid to educate their children. Rather, they should feel empowered na turuan ang kanilang mga anak na sa mga bagay na ito, because although these are sensitive, but these are also important. And for educational purposes naman po eh. And kasi pag ang bata, alam niya kung ano yung mga bagay na yan, he knows better how to protect himself or herself.
Okay. Ito na yung next question. Our writers, okay? Our writers, sila yung nangunguna sa pagbibigay impormasyon sa pamamagitan ng aklat o ng kwento. Paano sa tingin niyo po, attorney, may papasok yung usapin sa children rights?
To our writers naman po, I think it's important that they know na, number one, the contents of the books they're writing must be appropriate to the development of the child, depende kung sino yung audience. If that particular book is for our, example, grade schoolers, then ano ba ang kailangang malaman ng mga grade schoolers natin? Ano ba yung mga appropriate na information? So, as I mentioned earlier, kailangan nilang malaman yung mga reproductive organs natin, yung mga ganong informasyon. And then, for high school naman, ano ba yung kailangan nilang malaman in terms of literature, yung mga ganon. So, I think as long as they are child sensitive and their approach is child friendly, ito yung pinaka-importante po na phrase para sa mga bata. It must be for the best interest of the child. So, as long as best interest po yung tinitingnan natin lagi. When we say best interest, it is the whole circumstances po na kung okay ba to sa bata.
Okay. Yung tungkol sa pinag-usapan ng child friendly, pero bago natin pag-usapan ng tungkol dun sa bagay na yon, ano ba yung mga bata? Paano mo masasabing ang tao ay bata, ang bata ay bata? Anong definition mo ng
So,
bata?
our laws provide for the definition of a bata. So, bata is
Ang
so
bata ay,
he
sorry,
must be he or so he or she below 18 years old. So that's
below 18
17
years
years. Yes, po. So below 18 years old, so any person who is 17 years old and
below.
below is considered a child. That's the first definition po of a child. The second definition is any person who is 18 years and above. However, he is unable to fully take care of himself or herself due to a physical or mental or psychological disability or condition.
And then is considered a bata or a
Child.
child. Okay. Next question, nabanggit niyo yung child-friendly. Ano bang ibig sabihin mo ng child-friendly? Tapos kanina, attorney, may sinabi kang sensitive topics on sex education, ganyan-ganyan. So, what is your definition of a child-friendly content?
When we say child-friendly content po, it must be respectful. It must respect the rights of a child, and it must address the needs of the child. So, for example po, when you say child-friendly, example yung book niya, hindi po siya, kung ang target audience po natin sa book is our grade schoolers, then you must not talk about abusive drugs, you must not talk about alcohol, yung mga ganon. So rather, we put illustrations na something appropriate for his development. So he want yung mga friendly sa mata na mga illustrations, yung mga ganon.
Friendly sa mata ng illustrations. Pero how can you make a friendly illustrations kung sakasakaling pinag-usapan tungkol sa drugs? So, pero kailangan malaman niya kung ano talaga yung drugs. Kailangan niyang iwasan yon, di ba? So,
yeah, siguro yun. It must be clear na it must be, hindi siya pwede sa kanya. So, yung mga marks na it's an X, di ba? Yung ganun na to show. I think I leave that to the creativity of our writers or illustrators.
So, ibig sabihin, the writers and the illustrators should be creative enough not to present any sensitive topics na hindi na kailangan maging kailangan karapat-dapat maging child-friendly. So it doesn't necessarily mean they cannot talk about sex, they cannot talk about drugs, they cannot talk about yung killings o yung mga, di ba, kung ano man, murders, child labor.
Violent illustrations.
Hindi na, kasi nangyayari yan, even war. So hindi naman natin pwedeng sabihin yun sa bata. Di ba, ako naniniwala, ako hindi pwedeng i-deprive sa lahat. So, siguro, yung sinasabi niyong creativity, yun na lang, doon na lang pumapasok yung dunong ng writer at ng illustrator. Yun ang ibig niyo sabihin sa child-friendly. Is that correct?
I agree. Thank you for making it more clear.
Sabi ni attorney, hindi naman niya pinipigilan ang mga manunulat at creative people na hindi gumawa ng sensitive topic. Tayo na lang, mga writers at saka illustrators o yung mga creative people na gagawa ng paraan para hindi makakasakit or maapektuhan ng sensibility ng isang bata, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, may question. Ano po ang masasabi nyo sa mga batang nakakaranas ng depression dahil sa harassment or abuse?
First po, I would like to touch on the legal side of the case. So if there is harassment or abuse, definitely there's a violation of the right of the child. And there's a crime committed po. So it can be under RA 7610 or the child abuse law. That's the basic law where we can file a case for abuse or harassment. And then as part of our services po, the moment there is a report po of an incident, for example, of an abuse or harassment, we call the local police where the crime was committed. So for example, if the crime was committed in Quezon City po, even if we are in Cebu City, we can contact our law enforcement agencies in Quezon para
Talaga?
po ma-assist. Yes po.
That's good,
So
oo.
we actively work with our government agencies, specifically the law enforcement po. So we will contact them para po ma-assist, for example, yung batang naabuso. And then the police po, siya na po yung gagawa ng affidavit, gagawa ng investigation, and if kung pwede pa pong warrantless arrest, kung pwedeng kaya pa mag-warrantless arrest, then pwede naman po. If hindi na po, then we go to the regular filing of the case, wherein si police po magpa-file ng private complaint sa prosecutor. Then if the prosecutor determines po na may probable cause, then ipa-file na po yung kaso sa korte, tapos yung korte na po ang mag-i-issue ng warrant of arrest, and then pwede na pong makulong yung ang perpetrator, yung nang abuso. And then we also have psychosocial services po. So yung batang na abuso, we can refer them to it's either yung mga partner NGOs namin or pwede naman po sa DSWD. So our approach is really holistic po. We don't just stop from legal service but even psychosocial service. And if ang bata is kailangan pa, depende kung ano pa yung mga kailangan ng bata for psychologist or kung ano pang social service na kailangan niya, then we provide that for po.
How can you provide that from Cebu to Quezon City? Yung logistics na yun, ang hirap. So how do you do that? Can you really can do it?
Yes, we actually po, we have been receiving reports po. We have a Facebook page. It's called Children's Legal Bureau, and we have a children legal assistance form. Doon po sila pwedeng mag-report.
Okay.
And then makukuha yung details kung ano po yung nangyari. And then yung contact information. And then kami na yun po yung tatawag sa police po kung saan nangyari yung krimen. And then pwede naman po yung emails, pwedeng cellphone, pwedeng Viber, pwedeng Facebook. So we use all tools po para po ma-assist yung bata.
Ayun, huwag niyo kalimutan, Children's Legal Bureau or CLB. Okay? Ito naman. Sabi ni Ma'am, dapat nandito siya, may problema ang internet niya. Ang children's book ay magandang opportunity for educating children on their rights. Ma'am Nenita, pwede mo pang palawigin to, o pwede mo pang explore. You can write it on the comment, and then on the comment section, and then you can just send it and I will read it for you because guest ka dapat because of the internet connection. Guest ka dapat with attorney, kaya lang with the internet connection, hindi siya nakapasok. Okay. So, meron ka bang gustong sabihin dyan, attorney, tungkol sa sinabi ni
That's right po. As part of the basic right of the child to information and education, importante po alam ng bata kung ano yung mga karapatan niya. Because the moment na alam niya anong karapatan niya, then he knows how to protect his right, he knows how to protect himself or herself.
Sabi uli ni Ma'am Nenita, again, sorry, yung connection niya may problema. Alam naman natin ang mga internet dito. Okay, yung pinag-usapan niya child-friendly kanina. Ma'am, I'm reading your I'm reading your comments. Sige lang. Child-friendly, ang ibig sabihin, when the content of the children's book is promoting and protecting child's rights. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng protecting child's rights, Ma'am Nenita? You can answer me. What do you mean by protecting child's rights? Ikaw naman, attorney, baka naman meron kang opinion tungkol sa pag pinag-usapang protecting child's rights. How? Protecting.
That's right po. So when you say, I would rather say promote and protect child rights, tama naman po yan. So when we say, example, the right of the child from any form of abuse, whether it's physical or psychological or emotional abuse. So how do you do that? You make sure that even in the family, nasa isang pamilya siya na minamahal siya, inaaruga siya, hindi siya inaabuso. So ganun po. That is one way of promoting and protecting our child's right. It's his right to live in a safe and loving family and home po.
Okay. Attorney, ngayong pandemic, kumusta kayo? Kumusta ang CLB?
We're happy to say po that we're able to adapt with the new normal. So we are using and maximizing po online space to continue with our advocacy. So we conduct regular webinars po, talking about children rights, children issues, and talking about, kasi marami pong insidente na mga quarantine violations, for example, and committed by our children. So meron sa kanila na dinidetain sa presinto because they violated the quarantine rule. So dapat they're mandated to stay at home. But merong marami sa kanila na lumalabas ng bahay kasi nga naboboard na. So dinadakip sila, dinidetain. So sinasabihan namin yung mga LGUs, mga barangay officials, our TNT na we're not supposed to detain our children. So if they commit so if may quarantine violation, then you inform the child kung ano yung na-commit niya na violation. And then, kailangan siyang iuwi sa bahay nila, iuwi sa parents niya. Kung wala naman siyang parents, then we contact the local social welfare development office. And then, bugyan po ng intervention programs like turuan ang bata kung ano ba talaga ang batas na bawal lumabas. And then, tulungan siya na yung oras niya, hindi niya ma-spend sa mga irrelevant activities. So, kailangan turuan. Mag-study ba ron or bigyan ng mga materials or educational materials, mga libro. So, yung mga ganun po. We call them intervention programs.
Ito naman, si Ma'am Nenita ulit. Halimbawa, sa kwento, pinapakita na ang bata na sobrang affected emotionally dahil sa verbal abuse na naranasan niya sa kanyang, kung sino man yon. So ibig sabihin, makikita mo doon yung bata na affected na. So, ibig niyang sabihin, isa yung halimbawa, paano ang pagsulat ng tamang kwento na may kinalaman sa karapatang pambata. Correct?
I would.
Sige.
So I would say na, for example, in that situation, if the story is about a child who has been emotionally abused, so dapat in that book, i-discuss na it's not even supposed to be like that. The child must not be abused even emotionally or verbally. So what do? There's a crime for that. There has been a crime committed. Pwede siyang masampahan ng kaso at pwede ding mabilanggo. So, yung mga ganon. So, para malaman ng bata kung ano yung mga remedies available sa kanya, ano yung binibigay ng batas sa kanya.
Ito naman, may question dito. Ayun na nga, may kinalaman sa sinabi mo nga lang ngayon, attorney. What if, paano kung ang bata hindi naman niya alam ang kanyang karapatan? Tanong ni Red.
That's why, we should have educational materials like books talking about children's rights, and even kung ano yung and they must be explained in the simplest form. Kasi nga mga bata pa sila, we can't expect them to, understand mga difficult terms. So, kailangan in the simplest form. So, you start with right to survival, so right to life, right to exist, right to a name, right to identity, yung mga ganun.
Okay. Sabi ni Ma'am Nenita ulit, dapat sa kwento ipapakita din kung paano ma-address nito ang effect sa kanya. So, hindi lang yung pagpapakitang gano'n, anong epekto kunwari yung child abuse na ginagawa.
Yes,
so, yan daw dapat. Hindi dapat iniipon ng writer. Is that correct? Okay. Hello, sabi ni Ina, Ma'am Nenita, nandito si Ina Reyes. Hello, June, pagbati kay Ma'am Nenita Rebagorda, Pasilan. Happy National Children's Book Day sa ating lahat. Yan, Ina, binasa ko para kay Ma'am Nenita. Okay. Ang question naman ni Alrom Christian Pirica Fuente. Tama po, lalo na sa bullying. Children should be protected from bullies and the anti-bullying should be strongly enforced. Ang dami nito ngayon. What can you say about that, attorney?
To be fair with the Department of Education po, matagal na po silang gumawa ng child protection policy. And that's why they are strictly implementing the positive discipline. So, to avoid po yung mga child abuse cases. Although, we have to admit din po na there are really complaints din na parang ang hirap naman kung positive discipline lang, wala nang, hindi na ba, does it mean na hindi mo na pwedeng disiplinahin ang bata? Which is not true. Pwede po kayong mag-discipline, but it's in a positive way. Does it mean na hindi mo na pwedeng, how do you call that, paluin yung bata? So, no po. It doesn't mean na hindi mo na pwedeng paluin ang bata. Because ang pagpalo po, as long as it is not done to, kasi kailangan po may intent to demean or degrade or debase the value, intrinsic value of the child. So, syempre, for example, a situation is,
pwedeng paluin ang bata? Pwedeng paluin ang bata?
Pwedeng paluin ang bata. So, for example po, inutusan mo yung bata na magsaing, yun yung to cook rice, di ba? Tapos, hindi niya pinansin, so na-burn yung rice. Syempre, yung parent, nagagalit.
Attorney, pwede mo utusan magsaing ang bata? Bata lang yun, di ba?
Yes. I mean, that's child work. Meron din po tayong tinatawag na child labor and child work. Child work is allowed. Child labor is not. So, when you say child work, he can perform household chores. Pwede siya magluto, pwede magsaing, pwede maghugas ng plato or pinggan, pwede maglinis ng bahay.
Baka mapaso siya or... paano? So, tuturuan mo siya kung paano magsaing.
Yes po. Tuturuan mo siya.
Balik tayo sa pagpalo. So, pwedeng paluin ng bata according to you. Pwede mo pang sabihin ulit ito?
Yes, so actually po, it's a myth yung sinabi nila hindi na pwedeng paluin ang bata because pwede pa rin paluin ang bata. As long as po, it is not done. So, may caveat po siya. So, kailangan may limitation pa rin. Ang pagpalo dapat hindi ginawa to demean, debase, or degrade the intrinsic worth and dignity of a child as a human being. Ilalagay ko po sa comment box para...
Sige. Kasi na-curious ako doon. So, kung papaluin, anong parte mo siya papaluin?
Meron po kasing, we acknowledge naman po na ang bata is may pagkakataon na nagkakamali siya at nakakagawa siya ng mga mistakes, 'di ba? Or sometimes nga we say na parang spoiled na siya. So syempre hindi naman pwede na you will just tolerate him for his mistakes or for his wrong acts. You still need to discipline. And sometimes our parents tend to inflict like example, paluin, it must not be excessive. So as long as it's not excessive, and then as long as there are no body injuries, and even internal injuries as a result of the discipline or as of the result of the yung pagpalo. So syempre,
ano yung parte ng bata mo siya pwedeng, ano yung parte ng katawan na pwede siyang paluin?
I think, di ba yung iba, pinapalo through sa butt niya. So, sa puwet niya. Then that's fine. Sometimes, yung hand niya, kasi nga, there are instances na yung bata, gusto niya yung laruan ng kanyang kaibigan. So, kinuha niya. Syempre, the parents get angry or mad because you're not supposed to do that. One slap of, titik ng kamay, then that's enough. And then, at the same time, after ng pagbalang, importante, tinuturuan mo yung bata kung ano yung pagkakamali niya. So, you will explain to the child why you did that. I did that because you committed a wrong. And what was your wrong? You stole the toy of your friend. And that is not allowed because that's stealing. And you need to respect the property of your friend. So, dapat, you should not have done that. So, you apologize, and then you promise that you won't do that again.
Okay. Ma'am Nenita, pwede ko malaman ang opinion mo tungkol doon sa pagpalo. Gusto ko naman malaman ang opinion mo bilang isang social worker. Anyway, yes, sabi ni Reg Doropan, mostly po sa mga nabubuli is nagsusuicide or other stuff na pwedeng ikasakit mismo ng biktima. May case din po ba ang bullying kahit minor? Meron naman.
So, yun kasing bullying, most of the time, it's done between two minor eh. So, in the school, meron namang pong policies yung mga school nila. For example, kasi yung bullying mostly nangyayari sa paaralan, sa schools nila. So, the school administrators or have already come up with policies kung paano nila i-handle yung situation. Most of the time, meron lang yung misunderstanding, yung mga bata. So, the parents will be called to discuss kung ano ba yung nangyari. And then, but there are instances na hindi talaga kaya i-settle sa school. There are parents who proceed with filing the case. Now, in our law po kasi, below 15 po, automatic po siya na no criminal responsibility. So, any child po or any person below 15 or a child who is below 15 who commits a wrong po or misconduct, wala po siyang criminal responsibility. Pero if grave na po na mga crimes or heinous crimes, then we have
so pero for children po who are age above 15 and then yun po nakagawa rin ng krimen, hindi siya criminally irresponsible, pero meron rin kayong mga programa na kailangang i-implement to help the child.
Okay. Paano ba i-handle ang mga paano po i-handle ang mga batang bully? Yun ang tanong ni Rowena. Siguro may mga nababalitang bullies, di ba? So, bilang isang magulang o pati na rin ng bata, paano ba niya i-handle ang isang bully? Kasi nung bata ako, admitting ko na bully ako, hindi ko talaga kayang isumbong. Kasi pag sinumbong ko, baka lalo niya ako i-bully, di ba? So, ikaw bata, tinitiis mo na lang. So, sa bata, paano mo i-handle ang isang bully?
So, I think this is more on, parang psychological na kasi yung bullying. Sometimes, according to studies, merong psychological aspect yung bullying. Kasi there are tendencies na yung nambubully is also being bullied or a victim of abuse inside the home. So, we also need to determine the cause kung bakit pa siya nangbubully. Kasi that's what I've read in the studies na yung bully kasi, ang cause niya most likely, meron din siyang issue sa family. Either may mga problema sa bahay or a victim of abuse or violence as well. So, when we say kung paano siya i-handle, syempre, we need to determine kung ano yung age ng bata. Kasi nga, as I've said earlier, if 15 years old and below, criminally exempt from criminal responsibility. So, pero kung ang bata naman is above 15, and then i-determine kasi yung may discernment pa siya, naintindihan ba niya yung ginagawa niya, or hindi niya naintindihan. So, medyo din siya. It's kind of complicated, the discussion.
Okay, natakpan ko yung mukha natin, pero sabi, ito yung take o kaya opinion ni Ma'am Neni sa usaping pagpalo sa bata bilang isang social worker. Tama ba? Karamihan ng parents pinapalo ang mga bata dahil gusto nilang disiplinahin. Dito papasok ang positive discipline na tinatawag niya. Mas effective pa rin na kausapin ang bata kung at ipaintindi sa kanya ang kanyang pagkakamali. Hindi yung papaluin siya. Mali talaga na saktan ng bata para kung para kung siya ay magkakasala. Yan ang ibig sabihin niya. Okay. Yun ang opinion ng ating isang guest na may problema ang internet, okay, tungkol sa pagpalo sa bata. Meron po dito, sabi ni Rowena Gonzaga, meron po kasi dito sa amin ng bully, pinatay siya. Bata siya. So yung iniisipan nila ng bully, pinatay siya. Okay? Yun.
So, yun po, we still need to determine po the age of the child who committed that act. So, syempre, di ba, originally, na bully na bata, pinatay siya nung binully niya. So, if that's the case po, yung binully, yung pumatay, we need to determine ano ba yung edad ng batang pumatay. So, if 15 below po siya, then according to our Juvenile and Justice Welfare Act po, he is called a child in conflict with the law and he is exempt from criminal responsibility. Pero meron pa rin siyang civil liability. And then, if it so happen na yung bata is 17 years old, for example, yung pumatay is 17 years old, still, he is a child. So, i-determine if meron ba siyang discernment. Alam niya ba ang ginawa niya? Naintindihan ba niya? For example, is yung pumatay is malaman natin or we find out na hindi niya alam na mamamatay pa na yung tao. So, syempre, walang discernment yon. Or hindi niya alam yung consequences ng ginawa niya na mamamatay pala yung taong yun. So, wala siyang discernment. So, wala siyang criminal responsibility. But it doesn't mean na wala na tayong gagawin. We have intervention programs. So, si social worker po ang mag-prepare ng intervention program. For example, ano bang kailangan gawin? So, we will teach yung batang nakapatay between yung importansya ng buhay, yung dapat i-value yung buhay and you must respect other persons. Tapos yung psychological aspect niya, baka to make sure na hindi na mangyayari yun in the future and to make sure na hindi din siya gagawa ng masama sa sarili niya.
Okay. Papatay niyo muna yung David dyan.
Ongoing case po pala yun.
Ongoing yung case. Nag-echo yata ako. Anyway, bago tayo magtapos, gusto ko lang pag-usapan yung tungkol sa children's literature. Okay? At saka yung children's literature. Ano pa sa tingin mo, naniniwala ba kayo, attorney, na mahalagang isang aklat para may address ito sa mga bata, yung kanilang karapatan bilang mga bata? Ano pa yung maisasuggest mo bukod sa libro? Kanina natanong ko na kung anong advice mo sa mga writers, pero yung suggestions mo pa, lalong-lalo na sa nangyayari ngayon sa pandemic, ang dami nating na-realize ngayon. Habang nasa bahay tayo, habang nasa social media, ano pa yung maisasuggest mo? Kasi nag-iba ang mundo eh. Parang humuhulma tayo sa nangyari sa COVID. May naiba. During the time na naka-ECQ ka, nakakulong ka sa bahay and everything, ano yung pagbabago? Ano yung maaaring change sa usaping children's rights, sabi mo, children rights. Tapos, paano naman makakatulong yung mga writers o mga creative people sa pamamagitan ng aklat?
Ako, personally, I firmly believe that the information or education is very important, and we can achieve information and education through books. And I am also an advocate of physical books. Iba pa rin yung epekto kung hawak mo yung physical na libro. Kaysa sa digital. So, during the ECQ, I'm lucky na meron ako mga libro dito na nabasa. So, that's good then, no? Pero ngayon kasi, since pandemic, so parang medyo, I'm not sure if there are challenges on your end in terms of publishing physical books.
Okay.
So, siguro, we can still distribute books, and I think the challenge is how to do that safely. But I really believe that books are very important and play a vital role, especially in informing our children what their rights are, how to protect themselves from any form of abuse, any form of exploitation, yung mga impormasyon na ganyan. But since we have online tools din naman, I hope we can maximize those tools para ma-integrate. Kasi when we say digital, siguro ano sila, parang simplified yung mga information nila. So I hope in the printed version, we can also do that na parang simplified din yung presentation ng mga impormasyon.
Okay. Sa kinasamaang palad, sabi ko nga kanina, yung internet ni Ma'am Neni Pasilan. Ma'am Neni, ano naman ano ang mensahe mo para lalo natin mapalaganap ang advocacy, no, yung pagpapalaganap ng children's rights sa mga publisher, sa writers, at sa iba pang creators, illustrators? Ano yung gusto mo pang ang mensahe mo sa kanila? May advice ka ba o kahit ano? Na makakatulong dito sa advocacy ang ito. Okay. Si Ma'am Neng. Ito siya. Dahil sa mahabang quarantine, maraming incidents ng child sexual abuse or online child sexual abuse. Ito ang kailangan din ma-address. Oh my God. Kakalungkot naman yan. Anyway, oo. Kaya nga sinabi ka kanina ni attorney, kung siya ang tatanungin, mas gusto pa rin niya yung printed. Kasi pag nasa bahay ka nga naman, sa gadget, lalo na may mga magulang, no, na mayroon. Yeah, go! Go! Halika na! Bago tayo mag-end. Kasi, di ba yung marami sa mga magulang ngayon daw para tumigil sa pag-iyak o bigyan ng cellphone, iba yun lang, bigyan ng ganito. Di ba alam ko ano yung napipindot na niya? So, okay. So, ina-advise pa rin natin yung pinapublish na libro, nililimbag ng mga publishers kasi inaral yun eh. Sinulat yun, na-edit, lahat-lahat, no? Maraming pinagdaanan bago yun inilimbag. Hindi kagaya ng mga content sa internet, di ba? Minsan, kung ano-ano lang, lalagay, i-upload. So, ang hirap ipahawak sa isang bata ang gadget. O Ma'am Neni, hinihintay ka namin. Ang yung mensahe, sa usaping children's rights na may kinalaman sa pag-publish ng libro, ng kwentong pambata. Ayan, mahabang sinusulat niya. Meron ka pa bang gusto sabihin bago tayo magtapos, attorney? Habang hinihintay naman natin, okay.
While waiting for Ma'am Nene, I would like to, I highly encourage our parents, our siblings, family members, or friends na help children not to spend plenty of time in social media. They should just spend their time reading books, physical books, instead of being online all the time or playing games, because para less yung risks natin of being exposed to child pornography, child abuse, or sexual exploitation through online. So please spend time with your children, teach them to read books, the physical books, and play with your children. Spend time to play with your children.
Oh, Ma'am Nenita, okay, bago tayo magpaalam para sa topic na to, ang sarap ng usapan eh, no? Sabi muna ni Rowena Gonzaga, salamat sa inputs, keep safe po. Ikaw rin, keep safe Rowena. And Nenita, Ma'am Nenita, itong sinabi niya, napakalaking challenges ngayon sa mga children's book writers at illustrators na i-integrate sa kanilang kwento at illustration ng education and children's rights advocacy. Okay. So, yung mga writers, illustrators, publishers, eto na. So, kailangan lahat ng ginagawa natin ay may kinalaman sa karapatan ng mga bata. Okay? Kung wala na, Ma'am Neni, meron pa ba? Wala na. Wala. Ikaw, attorney, may message ka pa ba tungkol sa children rights?
I would like to encourage our children to know your rights. Read books, know your rights, and make sure that you're able to protect your rights.
Sabi ni Reg, thank you po. Stay safe po, Attorney Jenny, Miss Danita at Kuya Segundo. Keep safe din. Sabi ni Ma'am Nanita, I have witnessed the writers and illustrators workshop with the RTR to, no? RTR at nakakatuwa at very challenging. Oo, sayang eh. Sa susunod pakiayos ang internet. Okay. Oo, sayang. Oo, nakausap kasi ni Ma'am Neni, nakadaupang palad niya yung hello, Annie? Nasa live ako. Nasa live. Children's hello. Sinagot kitang bigla. Oo, naka-live ako. Sandali. Isa sa mga publisher ang kausap ko. Sige, Ma'am Neni, tatapusin na natin to. Tama-tama ang tawag ng isang publisher, si Annie to ng Adarna. Sinagot kong bigla no? Attorney, bye-bye na. At sabi ni Ma'am Neni, I have witnessed the writers and illustrators workshop with RTR. Nakakatuwa at very challenging. Thank you, Ma'am Neni, and thank you sa inyong lahat. Thank you, Attorney. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.